Hello. Today I will be actually returning to the Des Moines because, as I mentioned in my original Captain Points commentary for 0.60 or, well, 0.601, whatever, which one you want to pick, I promised I would make a new commentary if I ever update the captain builds, and I have in fact updated the captain builds in the case that I have given up RPF on the Des Moines. It used to be quite useful for catching people off guard, but these days people have gotten so used to RPF, it no longer has that new fresh thing about it that they generally tend to avoid any sort of situations where they are RPF spotted. In fact, RPF was actually really good for maybe a couple of weeks because it allowed you to point your guns and basically angle towards the exact position of the DD, and then when you pop the radar you could actively hunt him down because, well, you already knew where he was before you even activated the radar itself. And it allowed you to also corner DDs. If they any sort of flanking maneuvers from DDs, you could corner them against the border or, well, pretty much anywhere in a map where they had no escapes and then radar them to death, which was quite powerful. But people now have started playing very safe around RPF. If they are RPF spotted, they tend to just chill and not really push in anywhere and just play it super safe. So you could say the game base has learned to adapt to it. I mean, I still think it's a negative impact because, well, it kind of means people are play more passive whenever they are RPF detected, but I mean, it keeps them alive, so who can blame them? But ultimately, that has made me spec away from it. I think the build I'm using right now uses AFT. I don't know if the one earlier had, but my build now is, well, first of all, I took some pot shots. Now I see planes trying to go for my Friedrich der Grosse, so I pop defensive AA and I focus fire them. You can't actually see it here, but of course control clicking focus fires them and increases your damage by 30% if you don't have manual AA, which I don't have, but it melts these tier 10 midway planes pretty damn quickly. I'm playing on my alt account, El Gringo Potato. Well, because I didn't feel like being so heavily focused on my main account, so playing on my alt tends to alleviate that problem a bit. Ultimately though, this build very similar to the old one. First of all, target priority is an absolute must-have. You need to know how many people are focusing you. I still use the range mod, even after they buffed the Des Moines to 5.5 second reload. And I use Adrenaline Rush. You can see, of course, with the range mode you are able to stealth fire, which is what I'm doing right now. Oh, am I gonna make it past this guy without bumping into him? He's the bigger ship, so it's kind of my job to dodge, but I didn't notice him. And I lost all my speed. Oh well, whatever. Preventive target priority is the first perk. Tier 2 perk is, of course, Adrenaline Rush. I absolutely love that perk, and the Des Moines can get away with not using Expert Marksman because the turret traverse is already so fast. Tier 3 perks are both Vigilance for increased torpedo warning and Superintendent for additional radar, additional heal. And tier 4 perks are Concealment Expert, which is pretty much a must-have on every single tier 10 cruiser, and AFT for that increased AA range. That's actually the only real, besides of course the AA range module, that's pretty much the only real AA focus you have. It increases your AA range to 7.2, but the Des Moines' innate AA power is so strong that you actually don't need to buff it any more than that. Just having the increased range so you can increase your panic radius and your AA bubble is all you really need. And that already makes your AA absolutely god tier, as you probably saw by the way those midway planes melted. You don't need to buff it any further. Going for things like manual AA, basic firing training, all these things, I think they are pretty much useless on a Des Moines because, well, it's already strong enough. It's kind of, the points can be used better instead of buffing something that already shreds planes. Keeping myself heavily angled, of course, prior to target, letting me know that multiple ships are targeting me, but I'm keeping the long distance because in general you don't want to be tanking in the Des Moines. The squishy deck armor and in general the squishy bow makes it very hard to actually sustain damage in the ship. In general you want to just avoid shells, keep distance. I mean, yes, Your shells have a long travel time. In fact, you can say 10 seconds at something that's 15 km away. This is a very long travel time. But when you're shooting tier 10 battleships especially, it's very easy to consistently land shells on them, as you can see here. And you can just burn them to death and, well, deal significant HE damage. IFHE is, of course, not worth it on the Des Moines because, well, 203mm guns don't really benefit from it, as I've said. And you don't want to be nerfing your own fire chance because fires add so much damage to your arsenal. AP would be an option here, but honestly I just want to get fires on this guy since he's just about to get into cover. Now, the problem here is, of course, talking about map positioning. You might have noticed that I spawned up near C, but I sailed down all the way to A instead. That's because pushing into C as a cruiser is incredibly sketchy. There's very few ways to escape. There's no real cover. You're kind of in the open in this nasty position. You're oftentimes forced really far back. It's hard to push unless you have a DD with you to scout and smoke you up. Or you're a smoke cruiser yourself, something like a Kutuzov or a Royal Navy cruiser. I generally don't rate going north. It's pretty damn risky. I mean, a Zao can kind of get away with it because you can stealth fire from there, but in something like a Des Moines, I don't like going north. There's also not too many positions that you can use your radar that well from, unless once again you're smoked up by a DD. And in general, there's no real cover you can shoot over. So there's really very few things to motivate any Des Moines player to go to C on this map. It's different from the other side because you can get some cover and you generally have the positional advantage from the north spawn, but from the south spawn especially, I don't like going there at all. Already up to 100k damage, which is of course nice. I see a Kagero here, and I am pushing in on this Aiva. Keep in mind though that I'm constantly keeping track on my priority target. If a number lights up in that detected sign, which lets you know how many people are targeting you, I will instantly check the Missouri to see if he's aiming at me, and I'm ready to at any point turn hard right into the Missouri if he starts aiming his guns at me. AP would actually work really well here since he's giving broadside, but he has used his repair, so a fire on him would be pretty damn deadly. But yeah, this HE damage questionable. I do get the fires though, so ultimately I end up getting 2 fires, so ultimately it was worth sticking to HE. It can kind of vary. Usually if a battleship has taken a lot of damage, AP is better because you risk the fact that the superstructure might be saturated and you won't really deal too much damage. But if it's a full HP, then HE is really good, and if it's someone who's just about to angle away, HE is really good to just start getting those fires going. Of course, turn my guns. I already know where this Kagero is. He's smoked up and starts stealth firing me, which is pretty damn brave since I'll just activate radar, and well, he's forced to flee in a panic now. While your shells are not the best at hitting DDs, because once again, very lazy shells, they do hit very hard, and of course, because of your very fast reload, 5.5 seconds since they buffed it a bit, you kind of deal with DDs very easily. And considering your radar lasts a whopping 40 seconds, you have more than enough time to kill them off. Sadly, someone else killed that Aiva I had 3 fires on, so I didn't get the kill. Would have loved to get him, but someone managed to kind of steal him. But whatever, I kill off the Kagero and continue our push north. At this point it looks like the game is starting to stabilize a bit. I mean, we are losing B, but in return we're capping A and they're kind of fleeing. Now, torps incoming from my left, but I'm already sailing away from them, so I'm not too panicked here. And there's really not much else I can do than sail away. Let's check them. Yeah, they're gonna miss me. Turning left just to make sure I don't eat one unnecessary. And because I was focused on the torpedoes though, I am a bit late in activating my defensive AA. If I had activated my defensive AA maybe 2 seconds earlier, I could have saved this Yugama from any unnecessary damage. But those torpedoes distracted me at the very moment I should have activated it. But honestly, I should have kept better... I should have kept more focus on the minimap. So him losing an additional 2000 HP there was definitely my bad. I could have probably prevented that additional damage. But small distractions happen, especially when you're focusing on multiple things. But ultimately you want to of course be using your defensive AA extremely actively to help others. In this case, I did try to say, I think I might have saved him, because I did spread out the last bomber or two, but I could have prevented the damage altogether. So, a small fuck up, but it happens. In case you missed it, by the way, something very important just happened, and I was meant to point it out to you, but I forgot. When my defensive AA still had 10 seconds left, I actually used a trick to force it on cooldown faster. You might jump back in the YouTube vid and look at my consumable, the defensive AA consumable, and you will notice that the timer, there's still 10 seconds left on the timer when I force the defensive AA on cooldown. And I do that by quickly tapping P twice. I turn off and on my anti-air, and if you have your defensive AA activated and you turn off your AA, then your consumable is forced on cooldown, and that's a trick I used there to force my consumable to come up quicker the next time, because I knew during those last 10 seconds I wasn't going to be able to shoot down any planes, so rather than needlessly wait an additional 10 seconds, I'm gonna force it on cooldown by using this quick trick. And because I used this trick is especially useful when you are dealing with high tier carriers, who of course get their planes up quite fast and might be sending another strike your way. Well, honestly, any tier carriers, it's quite useful. And because of this, instead of having to wait, let's say at this point 30 seconds for my next defensive AA, my next defensive AA will actually be up in 20 instead. And this might seem like a small change, like, oh, what, so what, you save 10 seconds on your consumable, but these kind of things add up and it can save you and teammates. In fact, in this case, I'm able to pop defensive AA right now. As soon as it comes up, I pop it, and instead of having to wait the additional 10 seconds with these two dive bombers heading my way, I instantly shoot down one, and the second one tries to bomb me, and I shoot down him before, I think he gets, what, one bomb off? He hits me with one bomb, but thanks to using that small trick earlier, I basically reduced the damage I take to almost zero. So it's small tricks like that that you want to keep in mind, because ultimately if you want to improve and become better, you need to try to squeeze every single ounce, every single part of your ship to the absolute maximum. You want to get as much out of it as possible. Damn it, someone took that kill as well. Focus firing the torpedo bombers since they are the biggest threat, and I continue of course angling and pushing towards the Hindenburg and the Moine. Now against cruisers, you do fairly well with angling. I wouldn't say perfectly well. As you can see, this the Moine is shooting AP, and because he aims pretty high, he still does a decent amount of damage, but you are pretty damn good when it comes. You're not going to get citadeled when you're angled, and overall you are quite tanky when you angle in towards them. And of course, in situations like this, if this were a 1 versus 1, I'd have a significant advantage because the Des Moines is fleeing, whereas I am chasing. And because of the turret setup on the Des Moines, with 2 turrets in the front, this is of course an advantage to me. I also switched to HE at one point, and I forced his repair right there. So now any fires I put on him will also give me an even larger advantage. He's keeping to AP, which is honestly more random than HE is in cruiser versus cruiser battles. You can have some really good pens, or you can just get a bunch of bounces. HE is more consistently safe, and especially if you have forced a repair like I did, then HE is pretty much a death sentence if you just land enough. Here I kind of wish I had expert loader, especially on my Steven Seagal captain. On my main account I use Steven Seagal with expert loader on my Des Moines, and that's of course you can get your reload down ridiculously low. In fact, when adrenaline rush kicks in, you can get your reload, or you can switch ammo type between HE and AP in a second, literally 1 second. So if a cruiser you're aiming at suddenly decides to turn broadside, it literally takes you 1 second to switch ammo type and punish him with citadels, and I really love that. But that's on my main account, and this is of course on my El Gringo account, so I don't have such fancy things here. Bomber coming in, focus fire him, you control click them, increases your damage by 30% or 100% if you have manual AA. Try to make sure he can't get a drop across my ship, but rather has to drop it like this. Defensive AA pops up, of course, instantly focus fire on the torpedo bomber. And this is kind of what I mean, how quickly you melt these planes. This is why I don't really rate going too heavily on AA on the Des Moines. All you need is AFT and the AA range module, and you get all the range you need. And it's range really you want for the 7.2 km guns, since those are the guns that benefit the most from your defensive AA as well. Anything more than that just feels like overkill to me, because, well, these bombs struggle to even... I'm not even focus firing. I do tab out real... or, well, not tab out, but zoom out to focus fire it real quick. But I'm honestly not even worried at this point, because you just shred planes. A midway Hakuryu, they really don't want to strike a Des Moines who knows what it's doing, because they start losing... As soon as you pop defensive AA, the planes just start dropping out of the sky, which is, of course, the main strength of the Des Moines, the massively powerful anti-air, especially in combination with defensive AA. Now, you might notice I'm shooting HE, and all I'm getting is bounces. This is not uncommon. Actually, this is where you kind of struggle if RNG doesn't favor you. I'm landing a ton of hits on him, but you can see 15 shattered shells, and that's of course because the armored flight deck on both the Midway and the Hakuryu is insanely thick. So trying to get any sort of penetrative damage is nigh impossible, and this would be exactly the same if I used AP. All I can really count on is some good RNG to get some fires going on him. But of course, these days, with so many captain perks available, most carrier captains have some way of dealing with fires as well. Or, well, it depends. They might go stealth and more AA, especially since this is a strike Midway. He probably is more AA focused than anything else. But I still rely entirely on RNG. Actually, I'm switching to AP here, and you can see even super heavy Des Moines AP that I love because of its penetrative power and just how strong it is. Even this, if he turns away, I was hoping to get him when he was border humping full broadside. I was hoping to get him, but you can see what happens when these shells land on him. Yep, shatter, shatter, bounce, bounce. That's exactly what you get. This next volley is also going to land on 10 bounces. These shells don't shatter like the HE shells, they just straight up bounce. And yeah, switching back to HE because, well, this is of course one of the issues when you're trying long range to spam a carrier. If he keeps angled, you will not do much damage. When he gives broadside like this, you can start dealing some damage to him, but I don't think I'm going to be able to... Will I get this kill? It would be nice to get it, but he's being focused by so many others right now that I might not in fact get it. Get my high caliber, but someone else stole the kill, which is a bit unfortunate. Still, I can't really complain about this game because, well, 212k damage is always nice. A lot of XP, considering this wasn't my first win of the day, getting this much XP is always nice, and almost 1.3 million credits. Moving on, 72 plane shut down is probably worth mentioning. Moving on to the base XP, 3.9k, which is pretty great after they kind of reduced the XP gain in general. I'm a bit sad that some of my kills got taken there. If, for example, if the Iowa hadn't been stolen and I got in the Midway, it would have been a Kraken, and I would have probably broken 4k XP pretty easily, but you know, RNG is RNG, and sometimes you don't get what you want. 3.9k is definitely still a very good score for a Des Moines game. And moving on to detailed report, well, this was more of a HE spam game, as you can see. Very much long-range HE spam since they had so many battleships, and most of the time the cruisers sailed away and so forth, so there wasn't really any time to make the super heavy AP work. But of course, one of the strengths of the Des Moines is the versatility. You don't always have to use AP. The HE is also extremely strong. And finally, of course, well, I can show you why I got so much credits. It wasn't actually because any mission or anything, it's because I'm using the Gamescom camo. It gives you 50% additional credits, and I'm using the Zulu flag. Without those two, I would have only gotten like 735k credits. I'm of course grinding some money, and since I can't be arsed playing premiums, I just use Gamescom camo on the Des Moines, and it gives me a lot of money on this alt account. Anyway, let's move on to my recommended, well, updated recommended build for the Des Moines. Right, I'm showing this on my main account, not my alt account, because this one has the optimal build. Damage control, premium damage control if you can afford it, premium repair if you can afford it, and then premium radar and defensive AA in that order of priority. Main armament is mod 1, AA guns mod 2, all the new upgrades you can get are all garbage, don't use them. Gunfire control for that additional range, you saw just how much I used the additional range in that commentary. Damage control 1 and 2, now this is a bit different. I actually use damage control 2 on my Des Moines, since I think I can get away with the rudder shift, so I'd rather have the reduction from that than the increased rudder shift. And of course stealth. Captain perks, order of priority. of course, well, priority target is your absolute number one. But these two, expert loader and preventive maintenance, I didn't have these in the commentary since I was playing on my alt who only has a 17-point captain. Anyway, adrenaline rush, superintendent, concealment expert, advanced firing training, and then vigilance, and then with your last 2 points you get preventive maintenance and expert loader. It's in this order of priority you should spec your captain. Now you might notice this has a minus 75% reload time when shell type is switched. This is of course unique to the Steven Seagal captain, and that's why I showed it on my main account, because I don't have Steven Seagal on my alt. Normally expert loader is only 50%, but on Steven Seagal it's minus 75%. So this synergizes extremely well with the Des Moines. Of course, with the fast reload, it means you can literally switch ammo type in less than 1.5 seconds. If adrenaline rush has kicked in, then you can literally switch ammo type in a second when your guns are loaded. So these last two perks, especially with Des Moines, especially with Steven Seagal, makes the ship incredibly strong, and I really enjoy playing it. I have given up RPF, as I said, on the Des Moines. I still, though, use it on my DDs, or well, not all my DDs. I still use it on the Shimakaze, and I still use it on the gearing. On the gearing, it's more to hunt down enemy DDs. On the Shima, it's both to avoid and preemptively torpedo them. In fact, yesterday I had a pretty funny situation with RPF that I actually only played one Shima game yesterday, and I right away could abuse RPF, so I'll post that in the comments. Anyway, that was my Des Moines commentary. I hope you guys enjoyed it.